Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Christina Hardikainen, the Director of Agile Learning at IC Agile, and I'm here sitting with Hollie Delaney, Chief People Strategist from Zappos.com, to talk a little bit about how Zappos navigates times of crisis by leaning into their culture and into their core values. So welcome, Hollie.
Hi, Christina. Nice to be here.
Yeah, so nice to see you. Can you tell us a little bit about Zappos and what gives it such a strong and collaborative culture?
Sure. Zappos has been around since 1999. They started when our founder was looking for a pair of shoes and couldn't find them in the store, and he didn't like to shop. So he decided to sell shoes online. And when they did this, that's where the website was born. They were really excited to do it, but people thought they were crazy. And then our CEO, Tony Hsieh, he had just sold a company to Microsoft called Link Exchange that he was in. And he had noticed when he got around 100 employees that things started to feel too corporate. He didn't necessarily like the people he was sitting next to and like the people that he was working with every day. So when he became the CEO of Zappos, he really wanted to make sure our culture was a culture where people like to be at work and like to be the people that they were working with every day. And that's how our core values were born, by asking all of the employees at Zappos to email in their thoughts around what are the behaviors I want to see from the person sitting next to me every single day.
Great. And so, how has the current epidemic affected Zappos and that culture?
Sure. So one of the things that happened with us is we have a strong in-person culture, and we haven't had remote working, not a lot of remote working. We had a few employees here and there that would work from home or work from remote locations, but we were always very centered on the personal and emotional connections you get from being around people in person. So when this current pandemic happened, the biggest thing for us is we had to move our entire workforce home and then figure out how to keep connected within our culture in that environment. Because of the culture and the relationships that people have, we were able to move people to be fully working from home within a week. So that was really a really fast transition, which worked really well for us. And then we have the ability to embrace and drive change, and we have the ability to be adventurous, creative, and open-minded and take risks to see what works and what doesn't. So we just started on different things of how can we engage a remote workforce, and we did things like testing different mediums on how you connect. So we use Chime, we use Zoom, we use FaceTime, all of these different things. And we noticed that in FaceTime you could put emojis and things as your face, and you could be cartoons and things like that, which brought a lot of different fun and quirkiness to meetings. We also had different delivery service. We made sure to deliver office equipment to people's homes when they needed it. We have different departments that deliver surprise and delights to our employees. We have the ability for them to purchase different things, as well as online engagement, so we keep up with the team buildings and things like that, just to make sure people are still seeing each other, talking to each other, even though that they couldn't be there in person.
Wow, that's great, being able to keep that connection, right, as you transition to it. What do you think was the most impactful, or one of the most impactful things you did to maintain that connection?
Number one, I think the cooperation of everybody coming together to make it happen. So that's one thing in times of crisis and any times that we've faced at Zappos. One of the great things about the Zappos culture is everybody is there for each other, and they come together quickly to try to solve the problem. So in this situation, we had everybody come together and work together and cooperate to get everybody home as quickly as possible in the situation. And I think that piece was the strength of the employee base to do that and just get back to work was incredible to me. And I thought that that was a big piece in helping to know, hey, we can do anything that we put our minds to, as long as we do it together. So what is the next thing? And so the next thing each person tried and each person did was embraced. And so people weren't scared to log on and see what it was about. And people wanted to participate to see how they could make it better and give feedback. And I think that's the biggest piece that has helped us be successful.
Fantastic. And this isn't Zappos's first experience going through a crisis. Back in 2007, before the global financial crisis, the revenues for Zappos were about 840 million, and you came out of that crisis nearly doubled those numbers. So what was it about your people strategy that enabled that growth during challenging times?
I think the biggest piece of all of it is we're a very transparent company with our employees. So we tell employees what's going on, what's happening, the way it is, and even in hard times, we don't try to sugarcoat or hide the truth. We really just say this is what's happening. These are why we need to make the changes. So back then, when all of that was happening, we did have to go through a round of layoffs, which was the only time since I've been there 14 years, the only time since I've been there with it, we've had to do layoffs. And it was really hard for us because we really see each other as family members. And so it was really taking a piece of our family and saying, you can't be here anymore. And during that time, we were just very transparent with people, and we gave people the space to express their feelings, and we understood, and we were transparent with the community. And I think that's a big piece of it, is just being open and honest and trying to build from that honesty to be the next best version of yourself.
And so from that, what lessons did you take from that experience that you've brought here into this current pandemic?
Sure, same exact thing, being transparent and honest, saying, yes, we were a culture that was 100% on campus, being in the same place, having a campus, working together to have those day-to-day connections. And yes, we know this is going to be hard, but we have to figure out the new normal. It's now time to figure out what the next step is. And so while this is challenging, we need to move past that and say, okay, how do we continue with the foundation we've already laid, and how do we build on top of that? And having those real conversations about what that means, and figuring out new customer truths, and taking resources and putting it towards that, and figuring out what our next version is going to be.
So what's the next version going to be?
So that's a good question. We're working on that now. One of the things that we're really focused on is a process that we call market-based dynamics. And in that process, we have gone through a couple of different changes over the years, where we've distributed authority across the organization. So we went from a typical top-down organization hierarchy to a holacracy, where we distributed authority across the employees in the company, where each employee held roles and domains, and they were responsible to carry out those roles and domains. And now we're moving into what we're calling market-based dynamics. And that is where each circle in the company, each employee in the company, is becoming more entrepreneurial. So they're looking at their work, they're looking at their circles in more of a business sense, more an entrepreneurial sense. So as part of that process, when this pandemic hit, we started a circle called New World Pioneers and New Truth Hunters. And the idea of that was the way people are going to shop online, what they're looking for, the things that we're doing are now different. And we have to figure out what the next truth for customers are. And to do that, we need people in that circle. We need to invest in people to work on this, to do the research, to find out what ideas could move forward, and then start experiments to see if any of them stick. And if they do, then start MVPs, and then move into sustainable new lines of business. And so right now we've taken a portion of our call center, and they are working in New World Pioneers, where they're earning what we call bounties, which is money to do the specific jobs that they're working on, to do research on different ideas, to move them into the next level, and to start teaching those entrepreneurial skills so hopefully new lines of business will emerge from those ideas.
Wow, that's really cool to be able to shift from that hierarchical model to a holacracy kind of model, and into now this new market-driven kind of structure. How do you keep that balance of this entrepreneurial spirits and driving into new ideas with we're a big happy family?
Sure, it's tough. So the way I see it, because normally, entrepreneurship and stuff comes along with, at least what I knew about it before I did this, was competition, and I want to win and I want to make all the money, and that's what it's about. And the way I had to sit back and really think about it, the analogy I use is, if I have a storefront, and I'm selling, let's say I'm selling ice cream, and there's another ice cream shop here, I don't know this person, so I want all the customers. So I'm going to do what it takes to get all those customers. But if I own this ice cream shop and my brother owns this ice cream shop, I want to work together to make both of us successful. So what can we do to synergize to make both stores successful? Because I care about my brother and I want to make sure he's successful like I'm successful. And so when you think about it in that model, it's not just a city, it's a community, and we want everybody to be successful. So one of the things that we try to do is, when we think about these things, if two people appear to be working on the same thing, are really dive deep and say, are you really going after the same thing and competing on the exact same thing? Or are you differentiated, meaning your real purpose of what you're trying to do is X and what you're trying to do is Y? And so it's really differentiated businesses. So it's not a competition, but there could be a collaboration to make both of your businesses stronger. And then if it is a competition, make it healthy competition until it gets to a point where new ideas emerge to move the idea forward, and then merge those two things together to become a stronger business, to be able to attack the market, to be able to earn some of that market share. So it's really kind of a thought process shift to think about it in the sense of, you don't want to put your mom out of business. You want to help your mom, and you want your business to be successful. So how do you do that? Or your brother, or any family member.
Yeah, fantastic. It's been a really difficult time, I think, for everybody in trying to not only shift to remote workspaces, to figure out how we are going to come out of this and how we can kind of maintain our connection with everybody else. And you talked a little bit earlier about, again, treating folks as family, spinning up this remote workspace early. What kinds of things from your in-person, we're all together culture have you translated into the, hey, you're at home, but we can still do this?
Sure. So one of the things that we used to do at Easter for all employees is, we call them peep shows, and it was dioramas made out of peeps that you get at Easter time. And so teams would come together and they would make these dioramas, and then it would be a competition of who had the best diorama. And we'd get these amazing artistic dioramas come out made of these peeps. And so this year it happened right around Easter. We're like, what do we do? How do we keep doing this? Because this has been a big piece of a year-over-year process that we've had going on. And so this year, instead of teams getting together to build that, we had employees sign up who wanted to be a part of that. And we transitioned that into do that with your family. And we mailed out all the necessary materials for you and your family to put together this diorama. And then we had them video it just with their phones. And then we took the videos and we put together a whole montage of all the peep shows. And then we're able to share that with all the employees across the company. So they still got a similar feeling of, we didn't lose something that we loved to do and was important to us. We just shifted it from do it with your team members in person to do it with your family at home, and then share a little bit more about yourself with your team members by sharing the diorama that you created with your family.
It's so fun. It's a great example of this people first culture that you all have built. One of the things that we know from a lot of organizations is, as they grow, it's tough to maintain that culture that you had when you started, right? Those close connections, that again, familial kind of a bond. So what are the challenges that Zappos has faced when you were growing in maintaining that culture?
Yeah, it is tough. It's definitely not an easy thing to do. I think the biggest thing that has helped us is that having the foundation of our 10 core values and those behaviors, and really looking at those behaviors as, this is really what we want to see in people, living by those every day. It's a good guiding light. But honestly, when we move campuses about 7 or 8 years ago now. We moved from the Henderson area downtown, and we went from a couple different buildings in an office park to one main building downtown. And I thought when we did that, it would bring us closer because we'd be all in the same place and we'd see each other more and everything else. What actually happened is we didn't. We were more separated than we were before, even though we were in the same building. And it was a weird dynamic because there are people that I used to see all the time that I would never see. There's people that I don't even know, I've never met before, and things like that. And that's a real challenge from who we were. And then the funny thing is, I thought personally, okay, we're going to go remote and this is going to be even harder. But what I've found personally is we've gone remote and I'm meeting more people working remotely with them than I did when I was on campus with them. So it's a weird dynamic. And one of the things that I would say, all of these things and everything that I've learned at Zappos in my 14 years is whenever I think I know what's going to happen, that's not it. And to expect something completely different. So always be open to being able to test and figure out something new and kind of take in what's happening and the cues that are going on and figuring out, hey, yeah, I'm open to that. And this is even better than it was before. So I think there's a lot of challenges, especially as you grow, and a lot of things thrown in your way, but it's just how you take in that information and react to it if you have a good foundation to move from.
And that foundation for you all comes from those 10 core values. So what are those 10 core values?
Sure. I'm going to try to recite them. I don't have them in front of me. So it's deliver wow through service, embrace and drive change, be fun and a little weird, be adventurous, creative, and open-minded, pursue growth and learning, build a positive team and family spirit, build open and honest relationships through communication, do more with less, be passionate and determined, and be humble. And so those are our 10 core values. And then with each one of those core values, we have a core value document where we explain kind of what we mean by each one of those things. So one of them that always stands out to me is be fun and a little weird. People always think of that in one way, but be fun and a little weird really means be yourself, bring your whole self to work, share your quirkiness, share your diversity, share those things that make you you, because that makes us better. So the weirdness that each person has, because everybody has a little bit of weird, we want to see that little bit of weird. We don't want you to hide that, because that makes us better.
Yeah, when you can bring all of that together, when you can bring those creative tendencies and just embrace that, yeah, this is me.
Yeah.
Here I am. You know, we're all better together that way.
Yeah.
What advice, Hollie, do you have for other organizations out there that are coming out of this COVID-19 crisis and emerging into a really uncertain marketplace?
Yeah, I would say be open to all of the things that are happening and the different ideas and possibilities that exist. That is my biggest thing. And that's one of the things I really have learned over the 14 years in any one of the crises that we've been in, is just because something was great doesn't mean it is great all the time. And so there's always new things that pop up, and there's always things that you can move on. And there's always ideas, might sound a little bit crazy right now, but could be really cool. And so don't dismiss those things, like really listen and look for those things, and really allow your employees to be part of that change and the things that they're seeing, because your employees are on the front line. They're hearing from your customers. They are your customers. There are so many things that they have to bring to the table. And if you can really harness that energy that they have and really utilize the information that they're giving and the data they're bringing, there'll be a lot of things there that you may have missed if you don't do that.
Oh, wonderful. Which one of those are you leaning into most?
So for me, I'm, from a core value standpoint, I am definitely embrace and drive change and passionate, determined. Those are the two things I'm all about. So I get bored easy. So Zappos has been this great place for me because I get to do things different. And this pandemic, while I thought it was going to be a complete disaster, it's actually been the most fun I've had at work because I get to do a whole bunch of different things and it's all about change and I'm not bored and I'm busy and it's excited, busy and everything else. And I get to move on things I'm passionate about. So in the format of market-based dynamics, I now have the opportunity to lean into new businesses I'm creating. And so I get to take on a whole new world and start to learn a whole new skill set that I never realized that I could be good at. And that's exciting to know, and it's exciting work to do. So I really am working on two businesses directly that I'm hoping will bring a little bit of happiness to people out there in the world, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Oh, that's fantastic, Holly. Like, to be able to see this from that lens of excitement and creativity and what's coming next, right?
Yeah.
With that good thing, right? What's exciting?
Yeah.
You know what, Holly? Thank you. Thank you for spending this time with me and to sharing your insight with all of our viewers and participants in the Emerging from Crisis event. It was a real pleasure.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And I wish everybody the best and find what makes you excited and passionate and go and do it.